We're here in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm here with Cole. We had dinner because my assistant Lisa said she got an email and said, hey, you know what? I graduated from your alma mater, or actually I'm a student at your alma mater, USC, and I have a bunch of questions for you. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to have his questions answered. And instead of just me answering his questions directly, I wanted this to be seen by a few thousand people. So let's get to it.
All right, so as Nick said, I go to USC, and my first question is, I go to USC, you went to Marshall. I want you to describe to me and the viewers, how was your Marshall experience? More for me, but also USC alums.
Okay. Well, so Marshall is the business school at USC, for those of you guys who don't know. But for me, my Marshall experience was awesome. It was very different from a typical university because in a typical university, you have like, well, my first year was a typical university. You have classes, you have tests, you have homework, what have you. Now, the last 2 years, my Marshall experience was probably very different than yours because I was in an entrepreneurship program and a film school program at the same time. But both the entrepreneurship program and the film school program wasn't like a typical class. We would meet at movie studios and we would meet with different agents, entertainment celebrities, producers, and we'd go to dinner parties. We'd basically just interview people that were successful. There's a presentation we'd have to do at the end of it, but it was kind of like graduating after just, I think it's a better way to learn also than a typical book, but it was kind of like just graduating by attending class. And it was so fun. I would meet the producers of Lost, at the time was my favorite TV show, the producers of Weeds, the president of CBS, the president of William Morris, the president of CAA. And these were my professors, my lecturers, the people I'd be interacting with. But it was so fun. I'd invite my friends. I'd invite girls on dates. I'd invite people just to show up because they weren't taking attendance. There's different teachers almost every week. And I thought it was pretty awesome.
Does that mean that regular people can take a date to USC, to Marshall, for a date?
You know, I would say that a typical person could probably get away with taking a date to their university class, but they probably wouldn't want to do that, you know? But mine was awesome. Mine was so much fun that I had my good friend Harry Ye come, I had some of my close female friends come, I had all sorts of people come because it was a dinner party where you have wine, you have food, you'd be interviewing with fancy people. I remember I brought Tyler here to a party with one of my professors. Oh, wow. So my professor, Torrin Pavi, he'd show up in a limousine, park right in front of Marshall. He has a company called Arbitech, which does $200 million a year in revenue selling institutional servers to companies like Rackspace.
As a side note, we were sitting with Rudolph Giuliani, and that was my first exposure to American republicanism up close.
Yeah, so Tyler was talking about how at this party, it was a fundraiser for the presidential campaign of Rudolph Giuliani. And we actually got sat right next to him. We were able to hang out with him and what have you. I think it's also because we were entrepreneurs, but you were talking to me earlier about how your dad's in YPO. Torrin's dad was in YPO, and he was in EO. EO, YPO, WPO, they're all part of this network. And he would invite a lot of his friends from YPO and EO to come join our class, and we would then hang out with them afterwards outside of class. But Torrin's actually a guy I interviewed on my channel, or for my channel as well. It was pretty great. I didn't really stay in touch with a lot of my friends from USC because unlike an undergrad where I stayed in touch with a lot of people, in grad school, a lot of the people kind of had their social circles kind of laid out. Yeah. A lot of them were more professional. I made friends, but I really just stay in touch with like a handful of like a few friends, and I really don't see them very often. I feel like though you're very lucky because you're in your undergrad. Now when I was at USC, I would go to the parties at your fraternity house here at Sigma Chi. And my buddy Mickey Flores, he was the internet marketing director of the Margarita King, which at the time was a super popular party alcohol company here in Hollywood. And it was the first margarita in a bottle. Oprah was sponsoring it. Basically, it's like margarita mix and the alcohol all mixed together. You just pour it on ice and it's ready to go with different flavors. And now they have an incubator at my buddy Tony Shea's place. So my buddy Tony Shea, he's a billionaire that lives in a trailer park, but he has 30 trailers. He owns 60% of downtown Vegas, and the businesses on the land are businesses either invested in, advises, or influences directly. And he also gives some of his trailers to some of his friends. But the parties that was at USC, that was very, very memorable because we used to go there all the time. And a lot of my social life was really just hitting the Hollywood clubs. You don't really do that as an undergrad because it's different for you than it was for me, because USC was not my first MBA program. I was already living in LA for a few years. I did an MBA at LMU, and I did a second MBA program at USC after a few years, 2-3 years later, because I wanted to do the same thing you did. You transferred from Miami. And I transferred from LMU because I wanted to have the higher level education. I wanted to go deeper and further. And LMU is a great school, so you can learn a lot from Miami, and there's probably classes that you probably learned a lot from your class, just like how I learned from LMU. USC at the time, though, was really, really hot in terms of entrepreneurship, so that's why I wanted to go there. Yeah. And I loved it. It was great. I would say that the classes I learned in it were for public speaking and negotiation and line production, for doing the accounting and budgeting and management, are all skills we use today. And also I met a lot of people that I stay in touch with or who influenced me through the entertainment industry, and I thought that was really cool. But mostly it was the fact that I got to meet really cool guys like Torrin Pavia. I had professors like the guy who sold YouTube, the president of YouTube. I had another professor who was the former president of Ford.
Oh yeah, the network at USC, I'm sure it's unparalleled,
I think I got spoiled though because of real social dynamics. Like my professors, they knew who I was. One of my professors applied for a job for me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he was the president of Ford.
Okay, so you're coming from a different area.
But he was, we did a product launch. We made a ton of money from it. He goes, oh cool, I want to work for you. I'd go to show up in class, they'd give me books, like educational books. Like, hey Nick, here's a book. I thought it was really awesome. I want you to have it now because I learned so much from it. So I kind of got special treatment. Like when Rudolph Giuliani had his fundraiser, it was like a $10,000 ticket party. And my classmates were able to volunteer and attend the party and be cocktail servers and serve me food while I'm sitting next to my professor and the presidential candidate, Rudolph Giuliani. I did the same thing with EO because, I was part of the EO YPO network for so long. And these people who are teaching the class are my peers. They're the people that are teaching the class, so all my students were not so happy about that. Some of them were kind of giving me.
So you have this divide where you're like you're friends with these people, they talk to you, and, crack inside jokes, and then at the same time, this guy's teaching your class.
Yeah, it was awesome. We would hang out, party afterwards, be peers. I'd be going to their office, be having drinks, sharing stories. So I feel like I connected more with my professors than even my classmates because I already had my own company at the time. Yeah. Real Social Dynamics, we'd been in business for a good 5-6 years at the time I was going to USC, or longer. But it was also pretty challenging because we were running businesses. So I might be in Sydney, Australia doing a live program, and I'd fly to class and then fly back to Australia to finish the series of programs we were teaching. I would do the same thing for European tours. I'd go to Europe, maybe London, fly back to class in LA, and then fly back to Amsterdam. It was tough, but I had to do that. So it wasn't the typical college kid experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
My college kid experience, if you want to relate to you, you're talking more about how you're doing an undergrad.
Yes.
So your experience probably more similar to what I dealt with at Wisconsin. I did a video actually talking about my college experience at Wisconsin. It was about how to maximize your college experience. But I think that the biggest things about being an undergrad for me was I threw parties in my fraternity and outside my fraternity. I had really good friends in my fraternity, but I had even deeper friendships outside of it. I was involved with so many student organizations. I also created my own. I did everything when I was in college. I was in the Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps. I was doing projects for NASA, for a program that doesn't exist anymore, but allowed us at the time to fly an airplane called a KC-135 in zero gravity, and it did parabolas in the air while we're building science experiments and testing it out to see what you could do potentially in an International Space Station, but on the ground. I changed my major continually. I went from studying business to going to economics, and then to going to engineering and going to math. I kept changing my majors. But I went to business school eventually because that's what I really wanted to do. You're lucky. You're in a good business school from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Me, I partied a lot my first year. Every day. I got my nickname Papa because my partying was so epic.
Is that right?
There was a show at the time. It was a movie called Chevy Chase Las Vegas Vacation where there was a kid named Nick Papa Giorgio. And because my name is Nick, everyone called me Papa Giorgio because I had this fake ID like yourself that allowed me to rent out nightclubs with city council members, convincing the nightclub owners to rent it out to this kid who was obviously underage. Most of these nightclubs got shut down eventually. Rent out motor yachts, rent out mansions on the lake, and have epic parties that were in magazines, newspapers. I was so popular, I even ran for state senate, state assembly, and was really active in the government. I had the endorsement of the governor. I was really active in everything I could get involved with. I was also a captain of my hockey team. It was super fun. University of Wisconsin to me was an epic experience. I was spending a lot of time partying, probably more so than I was studying the books. But I did learn, I do reference a lot of the classes that I learned in school, in a lot of my teachings and my business and what have you. But it was the exploration, trying to discover yourself. I mean, you have an idea you want to go into private finance. I wanted to do the same thing. When I was your age, I actually was a stockbroker. Mm-hmm. I was working for Transamerica. In the summer times, I did institutional investments in Payne Weber in New York City. And I also worked in a law firm throughout the school year. It was a corporate law firm. I was getting $25 an hour doing NASD, the regulation research and newsletters. I thought I was going to be an investment banker at Goldman. So when I told my parents that I wanted to create a pickup artist company, they thought I was joking. They laughed hysterically until I moved into the Project Hollywood mansion. It changed everything.
Yeah.
But now we're here in LA, and now we're in a much better mansion, and we have a successful business. So I think it was a good choice.
So, okay, I loved your answer just because, you gave your undergraduate experience, which is different, where you mentioned, you didn't really know exactly what you wanted to do. You switched your majors a lot, and then kind of your graduate experience where it was more professional. I'm sure you still had a great time, like partying, going out, but it was more strictly focused on kind of like what you wanted to do with your life.
Well, when I was going out as a grad student, I was an instructor for real social dynamics. I was actually teaching boot camps.
Okay, so you were.
So I was still partying.
Yeah.
It's just that I was partying sober because I took a good 5 to 10 years off from drinking. When I was in undergraduate, I was drinking all the time. I was going to the University of Wisconsin. This is a place where cheerleaders hold signs that say, "We want more beer," as opposed to "Go Team." It was a really hardcore school. We were the #1 party school according to Playboy. But when I was instructor for real social dynamics, I was also running operations. So I was learning the stuff that I thought was applicable to my business and implementing it.
My next question is, this goes way off from that, but it's kind of deep, but what would you say would be your life purpose?
Well, I have a vision, right?
Okay.
So I have a vision but it kind of duels Owen's vision. Okay. So Owen's vision is a vision that he wants to inspire and influence as many lives as he can in a very powerful way in terms of not just dating advice, but self-actualization and identity level change. He wants to attack the 4 mega niches, which is dating relationships, which is like us, higher purpose, which may be like The Secret or Eckhart Tolle, health and fitness, which are for guys like the Primal Blueprint or maybe Brandon Carter and Kino Body, and then business and wealth, like we're studying in business school. And my goal is to help him accomplish that vision and mission. And also, on a larger scale, we coincide in terms of visions because my goal was to build a global company with the power to make a really powerful impact. And I like that idea, kind of like a game, like a video game. I've always been like a gamer. I thought that was really cool. But in my personal life, I just want to have a successful family, have happiness in my life. I'd like to eventually have kids as well. But I mean, in terms of purpose, my purpose really just aligns with Owen in terms of business. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my next question is, can you talk about how your career goals, you talked about going through graduate school and undergraduate. I guess for you, it's an interesting question because a lot of people, they have their career goals change. For me, I want to go into, finance, but I don't know where it's going to go. For you, I guess at a young age, relatively young, you kind of found out what you want to do, and that kind of that mission didn't change. But I think a lot of people, that's unique. Where
Well, let's talk about what I did, because when I was a kid, I was studying computer science.
Okay.
So I thought I was going to be a computer science professor. My dad was a computer science professor for over a decade. And then he went into the business world and he became a university president. But I thought I wanted to be I wanted a university professor of computer science. I was at 12 years old taking computer science classes. At age 13, I was working at the shopping mall showing people how to use the internet for Hewlett-Packard displays when the internet was first coming out. When I was 14, I was passing out flyers for a nightclub. I did it from age 12 to 14, actually. Passing out flyers for a nightclub, going behind the scenes at a nightclub, and then hanging out with rock bands like Bush and Korn. I thought that was really fun. And I would spend a lot of my time at the library of the university. I would still hang out with like neighbors, play basketball or what have you, but it wasn't like an active social life, probably like the kind of you had. We were hanging out with like friends and traveling.
Yeah.
But every summer I did something different. I was working at the governor's office, or I wanted to get into politics, or maybe I went to state legislature in California. I'd go to political conventions and volunteer. And then when I was in college, I thought I wanted to be in finance. I mean, when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be in finance, and college, I thought I'd be in finance. I mean, when I was 16 to 18, I was reading finance books. I was interested in going to investment banking. I'd randomly call inventors, investment bankers, kind of like how you reached out to me. And I would invite them out for lunch because I wanted to find out who they were, what they did for a living, and see if they had the same path that I wanted to do. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're doing that reminds me of me. Now, I would just interview them, kind of like how you're interviewing me, and find out what it is they did. I did it for corporate attorneys as well. I did it for all sorts of people. But one of the things that was interesting is I would sometimes network with people and interview them and get involved with their business. So I interviewed a guy who owned a clothing shop, and I ended up building a website for him. Yeah. I interviewed and talked to somebody who was an expert at horse riding, trained people on that. And that person ended up teaching me horse polo. And it was actually the father of Courtney Love, who actually ended up being my roommate. The daughter, Courtney Love, she ended up being my roommate at Project Hollywood Mansion. All totally coincidental, I guess. And I thought I was going to be in the finance world deeply. So I passed my Series 7, my 63, my 65. I was a licensed registered investment advisor, and worked in institutional investment stuff. But so I didn't really think that I had a clear path. It kind of changed throughout. I mean, from age 18, going into the finance world, to being 23, and then creating Real Social Dynamics, it's totally different. And then this path kind of like started off as just a hobby, a lifestyle business. Something that I thought that would just continue while I wanted to pick up girls, travel, and party, continue the party, and have a way to fund it. I just wanted to break even. I didn't care about making money. I didn't care about making a business. I just wanted to meet girls. I wanted to go out to travel the world and have a good time. Yeah. Anything relating to business was just kind of annoying. A lot of our instructors probably feel that way sometimes, because they want to just spend more time picking up girls, learning and teaching, sharing their stories and field reports. This whole path came about because as we built the company, the livelihoods of all the people that we hired, all these people that lives depended upon us, and also the influence that Owen wanted to have. I view Owen like a brother to me, and he wants to inspire and teach all these people with these high quality programs. And if I didn't continue the business wouldn't exist. They needed a businessman to run it. If you look at our industry, there used to be a bunch of companies. They all went out of business except for ours. They're all gone. Maybe there's a few one-man shops in every city in the world now. But there used to be several large companies all trying to compete against us. Most of them were inspired by or lived with us at Project Hollywood Mansion. Some of them will try to like call their programs after our programs, or call their trademarks after similarly titled to our trademark programs, just to make it sound like they're related to us, but they're not. I just recently found out there's companies in China that literally just take our name, Real Social Dynamics, and start teaching programs, and try to translate our programs. And we recently had to contact our legal teams to get them to stop doing that. But it's interesting. It's interesting how it's inspired all these things.
And so this leads me into my next question. You kind of touched about it in terms of like how you came across RSD, but for a 19-year-old or even younger, for someone who doesn't know exactly what they want to do, I'm interested in finance, but I don't know the direct route I'm going to take. what advice would you give for someone, like they may want to do what their parents tell them or like what their background is growing up, but what advice would you give to someone who wants to like really carve out their own path and find out what they want to do in life and like something that's fulfilling as well?
I thought about doing what my parents were doing. Yeah. I thought about becoming a professor. I mean, I'm still in education somehow, but just that's for real social dynamics. And they were doing a more formal education route. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. My dad was a professor, became, business leader in education. And I also wanted to be in all these other kinds of jobs, but I think that after I did them, I realized that they're not as fun. So I think that the most valuable thing you could do is do internships where you work for companies. I know that some politicians are trying to make internships unavailable to people. Trying to stop them all together. I think that's silly because I think that was the thing that allowed me to run real social dynamics more than anything else. By getting all these various skills from various companies, from Fortune 500 companies, politicians, whatever, I've taken all these skills, not because I want to be a master of all trades. It's because I wanted to learn all these different trades to figure out what I wanted to do in my life. I did the same thing for extracurricular activities. I did the same thing for just meeting various people from social circles that were totally different. You had a social circle in Florida you're talking about that you felt like was cool, but you wanted to get new ones, people that were very productive on the ball in this metropolitan city here in LA. I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to do it in a way where it's like different niches. People that are interested in, say, like dance or music. People are interested in the military and Air Force. People are interested in politics and topics of interest in society. People are interested in making finance and investments and being an M&A. People that are interested in being entrepreneurs. I got into all these different subgroups and I made friends in all of them. And I also made just regular down-to-earth friends who are just normal people I play video games with or watch TV shows with. But I like the idea of having all these different soul circles because they inspire you. Also, I feel like by building this large Rolodex, you'll be surprised how many people you can network with. And it often turns into relationships or business relationships or all sorts of things.
Yeah, so that's great advice for someone like me who's young and wants to iron out. I think I listened to one of my mentors talk about asking the right questions, right? If you want something in life, you got to ask the right questions for what you want, whether that's people that you look up to or, as I did, I sent you an email just because I was interested. What would you say about, that principle of, ask, or rather, Jim Carrey talks about asking the universe for what you want in life. What would you?
Jim Carrey says that.
Yeah, have you seen this? He gave a commencement speech. One of the big things he talked about was you got to ask the universe for what you want. What would your opinions be on that?
Well, first of all, the reason why I created this YouTube channel was because there's so much to learn. And I'm interviewing people that are very successful in very different ways than me. People that are successful in their career, but in very, very different ways than me, because I created this very unusual company. And there's so many lessons I can learn that I can apply to my company directly. So I created this also because I wanted to learn, but also because I want to be able to connect with my old friends or people that have influence. And you never know where your mind goes. Like when I listen to topics in business school, and let's say they talk about marketing, the stuff they might be directly talking about might not relate directly to me at all. But it just gets my mind focused on that particular topic, and I just start running into all sorts of creative directions with that. Same thing goes when I am interviewing other successful people. They might be talking about a particular topic, and it might inspire something else other than what I'm looking for. Sure. So I created this channel to interview some of the most successful millionaire and billionaire entrepreneurs, YouTube celebrities, entertainment celebrities, and best-selling authors from the business world and also other kinds of best-selling authors. People that I believe that have a huge impact, like in terms of higher purpose. And I did that because I wanted to get the inspiration. I was so locked into my own world and shell. I was in part of a ton of mastermind groups. I spent well over $1 million over 4 years, almost every week going to different mastermind groups and seminars and conferences. And that's in addition to being a student. Yeah. I'm still a student now. I'm studying law at Harvard. I'm traveling back and forth between Boston, Vegas, LA, continually throughout the year. I'm here with you in LA, but I'm only here for one night. Yeah. And it's because I believe in continuing education. So I think that's super important. I mean, I love the idea of sharing this also with other people because I think it's really valuable to share this with other people, and then other people want to hang out and share their ideas with you as well. And I think it's great because the people I interview also, I'm able to offer value to them. I have a huge network. Yeah. I think I have one of the largest Rolodexes out of normal people on the planet, because I'm not like a president of state where everyone just comes to you. But I'm somebody who has built sticky relationships where people feel like they know me, even if I don't hang out with them like on an everyday basis, because I'm always offering value, looking for opportunities to help out the people I meet. And then the ability of sharing information, I think, is probably the biggest thing that we have. That, and also having a lot of fun, having access to epic parties, beautiful girls and guys. You could give them more of that kind of entertainment value.
So you basically, you interview people and you ask sort of the questions that you're interested in, and then in turn they provide you with some of the value that you can relate back to your life and things that you can apply to your life, because you're basically, what you said, you're open to hearing what other people have to say. Because
yeah, I mean, on camera and off camera, I will get them to ask me questions back, and I'll try to help them as well. And one of the things I want to do is actually go in-field into the businesses of some of these business owners, show what it looks like, show their offices, show their tour, how they live their life, and have them share that. I like doing that with myself as well. That's why I have a secondary show where people can just ask me questions. And the cool thing is that when I network with all these people, they'll oftentimes want to stay in touch. Yeah. I just did an interview with John Osroff from The Secret, and he invited me to go to a charity ball very soon in LA at the SOS with Will Smith and Jada Smith. I did an interview with Larry Benet. He's a master networker, and he introduced me to Nicole Arbor, who's doing a music video at our mansion tomorrow. It's interesting how these interviews that I've been doing move into all sorts of directions, because I'm not like Larry King or a typical journalist. I'm a real businessman, just like the people I'm interviewing. I'm a YouTube celebrity, and I'll probably be a book author one day, so I can relate to the topics and ideas of all these people, because I'm just like them. I'm not just an outsider who's trying to work a certain angle and try to get them to say something they might regret.
It reminds me actually of a quote, not paraphrased, but it's by Henry Ford, and he talks about, when you stop educating yourself, it's not the moment where you turn 80 where you get old, it's where you stop educating yourself and stop learning. He said that's when you grow old. I think it's like, an interesting concept, because you, much older than me, but at the same time, you're still constantly trying to learn from other people, which is, it's inspirational.
Yeah, I used to have a quote I used to say all the time. It was like a Zen philosophy quote, which was, seek the truth from those who are seeking the truth and run from those who claim they have found it. Because I believe that continuing education is a core value of myself that I want everyone in our company, but everyone in the world, I believe they should experience. Because I should probably, never stop learning, and I'll probably be in some kind of formal education in some way or another for a very long time, whether as a student or teaching it as like an adjunct faculty member at the university one day for fun.
Yeah, so it's an interesting principle, I think, and you can see it just by the way you constantly are asking people questions, constantly still interviewing people.
I'm probably going to do a doctorate also, after I do my master's.
So yeah,
and I might even do multiple ones. I mean, I think that people thought that it was really weird that I would go back to school, because I'm already running a company. But I believe that the lessons I'm learning while I'm in school help me. Yeah. And it expands my network reach and credibility with people of influence. That allows me to get more mentors, advisors, people who could do things, who have done things on a very epic level. And if you want to do things on an epic level, you don't want to do it by yourself. You can't reinvent the wheel. You need a team. You need mentors.
Yeah, so that leads me into my next question, actually, is who are your top influencers or mentors?
Well, if you look at my channel, a lot of the people that have huge amounts of influence on me are the people I actually interview. Probably the biggest one, of course, is Tyler. I have Tyler as a huge influence because he inspires the whole direction of my entire career. His vision is what kind of drives all real social dynamics. He's the one who trains our instructors. The reason why our instructors are so talented is because of Tyler. He inspires them, he motivates them, he teaches them all sorts of really interesting things, and he pushes everyone to be of the highest standard. But I've formed mastermind groups and joined mastermind groups myself. I mentioned some of them like EO, YPO, Summit Series, etc. And I've been a part of all these groups. I also quit all of them except for Real Social Dynamics because I just have certain people from all these different mastermind groups that I stay in contact with. Now, that's why I created this channel, because I wanted to reconnect with my mentors. So let's say that if I want to mentor in, say, something not even business related, like hip hop, creating a hip hop video. I reached out to a guy who's a hip hop coach, Drew from How to Rap, and he's educated me on that. And I'm working on setting up a meeting with Matt Stefanini, who's got talent. He's like a master dance choreographer. In the business world, if I have questions about business, I might come to some other mentors. I might ask Tony Hsieh in Vegas. He might ask me, hey, what's the biggest business issues you're on? And I'll start telling him about them. And I might meet up with my attorneys, and they will mentor me on certain legal issues. But I find specialists on all the different issues that I'm on. And if you want to know who my mentors are, if you watch my Thursday channel, you'll see a lot of them, because I've interviewed a ton of them, and I continually do that. So I kind of use my channel as my mentorship sessions, and as opposed to just selfishly sharing just taking the information, I'm sharing the information with other people.
So this kind of transitions to my next question, which is, you're going to talk to all these great people. In addition, you talked about how you're going to be in LA for a day, and this is, LA for a day for your 24 hours. But what are your favorite places to go in the world? What are your favorite places? And we talked about this a bit, because I'm, going to study abroad next year at college.
We were talking about where I would live in Europe, if I was going to live in Europe, and I said I would live in Germany.
Let's go broad.
But I mean, if you talk about the places, because I've been to 110 countries.
Yes.
Some of the places that I really love and fancy are those places that people don't ever consider going unless they're going on a most epic vacation. And that's places like where I did my honeymoon, like Bora Bora, or where I got engaged, the Maldives, which is my 100th country. These are these series of islands where you have these overwater bungalows, and you have nothing to do but hang out in this picturesque environment, the epic beaches, awesome food. You even rent your own islands out. There's so many islands, and have your own little party. I would do a party for two with my wife, and we would have musicians come in and chefs come in and organize fires and entertainment just for the two of us. These are the things you could do in these very unique and unusual places where you have to travel from boat to boat and go from island to island. And it just, for example, the Maldives, there's 2,600 islands. Yeah. And it's a place that most people, even the most powerful people on the planet, have never considered going, because they're so used to going to these business cities. I like business cities. I especially like business cities that have fun things to do. I like Sydney, Australia. I used to be one of my favorite places to vacation. We were talking about Prague earlier, because the whole place is like an adult playground.
Yeah. Big college scene too. Big college scene for people trying to go abroad.
Yeah, and I love going to places, even in America, that are just places that are reminiscent. Yeah. I like going back to Boston a lot, because it's a place where I lived for many years. My wife was going to Harvard, and we were living there, and now I'm going to Harvard, but we're not living there. We're flying back and forth between Vegas. But I have so many fond memories of living in Cambridge, and I lived in the most epic house and had crazy parties, and just so many fond memories from that. Nowadays, I try to want to explore those places that I haven't been to yet. So when someone invites me to a place like, say, the Seychelles or Mauritius, that gets exciting to me, or Dubrovnik, places that, like where they had Game of Thrones. These are places that are definitely vacation destinations that most people haven't explored. Usually people will go to places that are popular, like Barcelona or Ibiza in Spain, or maybe they'll do a tour of Italy. These are like the popular touristy destinations. I like that. I love doing tours, but I also love those places where you won't get as much tourism, because they're very unique.
You experience the culture, right? The real.
It's really interesting. They're a little bit more expensive to go to, because when you go to a place where you have less tourism, the cost per hotel is more expensive. For example, I went to Bermuda and I played golf out there, and the average hotel price per night was probably what most people spend their entire vacation, because it's so expensive. But that's because the tourism out there is so low. There's very little tourism out there. But they have epic golf, amazing beaches. Right? Yeah, Bermuda grass. It's really fun. So the kind of vacations I like going to now, because I've done all the traditional vacations, like Hawaii or Tokyo, or going to all these popular cities, because I did it on tour. I did a tour around the world, and I brought my wife with me to most of the places I went to. But nowadays, I really like exploring these unique places. I remember I told one of my friends I want to go to Antarctica. And he has traveled, but he hasn't traveled to more maybe 5 countries. I think it's always interesting when I hear about that, because most people in the world actually don't even leave their own country. They just chill. I think it's amazing, because it's like reading a page of a chapter of a book as opposed to reading the whole book. But I told him I want to go to Antarctica. I wanted to see the glaciers. I wanted to go glacier jumping. I wanted to see the South Pole. I wanted to see all these things. And he said, wow, I can't imagine what you would have to go through in your life to want to go to a place like that.
Exactly, right? So this leads me into my last question, which is, you're traveling all over the world, you're running your own company, you're getting your degree at Harvard. Where do you see your life going 10, 20, 30 years down the line?
Well, I see Real Social Dynamics being a much larger company than it is now, multiple times over. I also see us accomplishing Owen's goal. I see myself as a family man. I like the idea of traveling, but although I live in a crazy city by reputation, Las Vegas, and I have a crazy company by reputation, Real Social Dynamics, it's quite a normal life. I'm running business operations, I'm interviewing successful people, but I play golf, I travel. I'm just like any other kind of CEO, so I actually relate to most CEOs, even though they're completely different industries than me. I have a lot of the same friends as a lot of successful CEOs, because I'm always talking to people, networking with people, but I see that network growing. I also see myself building the business side of RSD in terms of business education. I like to see us go in field in terms of not just pickup, but in terms of sales. We did some of those programs, but I could totally see us going undercover in organizations as the wingman for sales representatives and closing sales. We've done that before for real estate companies. We cold approach people at conventions, and we would do it through hidden camera videos, like a boot camp, kind of like we do for Hot Seat. I can see us doing that for other things other than sales. I think that'd be a little bit more challenging, because sales is the things that we really are amazing at. I can see us doing that, not just in terms of consulting, but I have a friend who created a company called Delivering Happiness. It's a girl named Jennifer, and she created this company called Delivering Happiness because it was based upon the book of Tony Hsieh, who she was working with on a tour called the Delivering Happiness Tour, which is a tour to promote a book that he wrote called Delivering Happiness. And she created a self-development company that teaches organizations how creating a culture that provides happy employees makes it so that everyone's more productive, they are retained longer, you have overall better customer service, etc. And she created this term that was called coach-sultants, as opposed to a coach or a consultant, you're a coach-sultant. So you can see us being more like that in the future. We're kind of already like that in Real Social Dynamics in terms of our dating relationships. But I like the idea of us not just being the typical coaching company, not just for dating, but for the other mega niches. So I can see us doing this for business. We're going into businesses and providing seminars, but also going into their companies and critiquing them. It's like how we go into someone's personal dating life and we're their wingman and we're critiquing their actual interactions. I can see us doing that in health and fitness. With fitness coaches, actually doing that for fitness, coaching them in large groups, but actually being a personal trainer. I can see us doing that in the higher purpose, in spirituality, and taking people through meditative retreats, and also spiritual journeys and hikes and other kinds of things that allow you to overcome your fears of a success barriers, things that get in the way, and clearing those out, but actually doing it with you, as opposed to just talking about it.
And I just want to say, just for everyone watching, is like, you have this vision for where you want to go, and then at the same time you're associating yourself with and becoming acquainted with people like Brandon Carter, and you mentioned earlier Greg O'Gallagher, who does Kino Body. So you have these connections just because people you bond with, and then who knows, you turn around and go in that direction as well with your business. So it kind of comes together in terms of the people that you bond with, and then your business goals. So I think that's kind of like a good way to, I guess you can talk about that, but. Yeah,
these are people that are coming to Summit. They speak at our events. I can see us doing programs with these guys in the future, and similar guys that are in all these different niches. It's all about having the same vision and goal. And I think that we have the platform to make this happen. We have the experience to make this happen. We have a network and mentors that can help advise us through the process. And they have a lot of experience themselves. So I could see all this I can see us having that track of success. It's like a very clear vision.
Yeah.
It's one that Owen sees very clearly. So a lot of people will say to us, you should go through this educational event. It's awesome. You learn so much. And I've done that. However, our vision of how we need to accomplish things is so clear that it's really just putting in the work and the hustle and making things happen. Now, there's people that are experts in a lot of things that we're not completely expert on. We're not experts in everything. So I'm reaching out to those people and networking with them. But because we have a track record of success, we have a platform to help them as well and an audience. By them coming onto my show, it's not just me learning from them. I'm also introducing my audience to them and their services and their products. And so it's kind of like a value exchange. It's kind of cool.
Anyway, Nick, this has been great. You've provided a lot of insights for me, other young kids, and also people who want to maybe one day start their own business, people who want to go off on their own. It's been great. Thank you so much for your time. And,
yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad you reached out to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
That just shows it. That if you reach out to people, things will happen.
I told you about like asking the right question. I forget who told. I think it was one of my dad's friends who said, and also Jim Carrey, who I mentioned, like you got to ask the right questions. So that leads to like. He says, Jim Carrey says, like, ask the universe for it. And what I indirectly read off of that is, like, ask people for stuff. Like, reach out. If you didn't answer my email, you didn't answer my email. It's not like I'm going to hold a grudge or anything like that. At least I spent the time. What does it take, 5 minutes to write an email for someone, so that.
Well, it's surprising me because I tell everyone, at the end of my videos, I always say the same thing. I always say, look at the camera at the end of every video, and I always say, write your comments below on my channel, subscribe to my channel, I will watch them, I will respond to them, and they will inspire new videos. And people like yourself actually do it, and now you're here with me.
That's how it happens.
This is how it happens. Yeah. It's for real.
Exactly, right. I'm not paid to be here. No, this was great, just because, you're doing so well, you're running your own thing, and just to take time out of your day to talk to, we went to USC, we have that common bond, but just spend your time to talk to me and, give me guidance. It's something that, you couldn't even pay someone for it.
I had a guy reach out to me from boarding school.
Okay.
He did the same thing. He just reached out to me. And I met up with him. I meet up with almost anyone who's graduated from my alma mater of any kind.
Yeah.
And it grows,
What are you going to use, in terms of what you're doing with RSD, what are you going to use the, like the law degree that you're going to get from Harvard? How is that just something that you've always wanted to have, or is that going to?
We have so many different complexities being a global company in terms of legal contracts, trademarks, copyrights. Then we also have other issues like visas, immigration, work visas. We have issues that we have to deal with in terms of litigation when people defame our brand. And so we have to learn how to manage this. Now I have attorneys that can do all these things, reputational management and what have you. These are new concepts to me. Yeah. These are concepts I'm learning about. I'm learning about that at Harvard.
That's great.
I'm going to learn more about that too in other programs.
It's like the other question I asked you about always learning. You're learning in a direct way that helps your business, and I'm sure, having a law degree from Harvard is, anyone would want that, right? But then to apply it to what you're doing is great.
Yeah, it's funny though that some people will view it as weird. For example, my marketing director, my old marketing director, his name is Alex Vicken. And I told him that I was going to go back to school. And he says, that's so weird. Going back to school, isn't that kind of like going back in time and going backwards in your career? And I didn't think about it that way. A lot of people also will discount formal education because you learn most of what you need to learn in the field, in the workforce. That's true, I agree with that. But I believe that there's a lot of ideas that need to come from external sources. And some people will learn from books. I learn best from being in classes, interacting with live people.
I would say if you have the right professors, right? Because you have professors who will just read out of the textbook, and then it's kind of you're sitting there and thinking, what am I doing with yourself?
That's true, and that's why a lot of universities will fail people.
Yeah.
A lot of people will quit school or not want to go to college because the professors suck.
Yes, it's a huge thing. Yeah. Whereas if you have this one professor who's engaging with the students, and you have like this, I actually did a week at Harvard where it was actually through YPO, and it was entrepreneurial business, and it was the greatest experience. And you had this one professor, I think it was Professor Sharp, I'm not sure what the name was. Anyway, he would ask a question and no one would answer, and he would say, the room would be silent for 20 seconds, and he would say, I'm fine with silence, I'll let you guys think until one of you has an answer. And it's so different from, you can have a professor like that who's so comfortable steering a class in terms of like dealing with what everyone has to say and having a discussion-based learning where everyone's moving forward, and then someone who's just reading out of a textbook. It's just a totally, it's like a totally different experience. So that was something I gained from, and as you were saying, it's like, it's why a lot of people don't want to go to college, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that don't, but even Tyler, when he went into the workforce and started creating Real Social Dynamics, he went back to school for a couple of years to finish his degree. There's still stuff to learn. Mm-hmm. There's the credibility factor, because it proves you do things and you accomplish things through work ethic, and it gives that credibility to yourself, but you also learn stuff. There's certain skills that you just want to hire people off of. For example, computer science, technology skills, or science. I'll hire somebody who is a computer programmer of a particular language, regardless of what kind of degree they have. But they've proven themselves through formal education, and especially if it's in business or, again, like a master's of business administration, and they've work experience to back it up as well. They have a lot more potential to get that chief level position, on a C-level position, because they've proven themselves to accomplish things. They've showed a broad range of educational topics, experience, and knowledge. You can still get the same thing from the workforce, but you have to work with stellar people, and that there's stellar people in certain universities. There's certain stellar people in certain organizations, but there's only so many spots in both of those to get access to those kind of people and that kind of knowledge.
Yeah, I would fully agree. And then another thing that Tyler talked about, which is like the division between, you have people who are so work focused that, like, for me, I'm like in finance, and you see people who are so like focused on finance and what they're doing that they become, you come like out of it and you're trying to socialize with people, and you're not like the same person because you can't really step away from that. Whereas, you're kind of in that field because you're playing both roles in terms of like organizing the business aspect of RSD, but at the same time, what are the principles behind it? It's like be free from it and like be present. So how do you kind of like, when you step away from like the working part of it, how do you like adopt those principles, if you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, in my personal life, if that's what you're talking about, being present in your personal life, that's something that I definitely always do, especially since I'm married. I always take time away to spend time with my wife, do date nights, do things that I know is going to enhance my personal life. Even if it's just time to hang out, catch up, share ideas, my friends, family, dinners with my wife. I step away from business. Fortunately, I also work from home most of my time, so I do see my wife when she needs to talk to me about something. It's pretty easy for me to accomplish. Mm-hmm. That's a huge advantage I have, and it's something that is a huge luxury for me, and I think that in my company, if I want to stay in the ball and stay present, I'll be there. It's just, there's so many complexities and challenges that you have to manage in your business. The challenge that you'll face is to try to separate those challenges in your personal life and not allow it to affect your business, and vice versa. I've had a lot of challenges on both ends, and as a result, I've had to manage that process. It's huge. I could talk for hours about all those little challenges, and I'll probably do that in future videos too.
Yeah, it's a good concept, we're managing work and play, because oftentimes they can intersect, and then, it's not necessarily a good thing, right? Yeah. Especially because work comes into play, you're too stressed out, and then play comes into work, you're distracted from what you need to do. So I think that's like an important thing that I took away from it also, especially with you, because you're traveling all the time, and you have a busy schedule, and you're kind of managing it all, which is...
I don't feel like I'm traveling all the time anymore though, because I'm trying to limit my travel as much as I can to, because I'm having to travel so much to LA, Vegas, and Boston. I'm trying to limit my travel. I'll do vacations, but it's not like I used to be. I used to be able to just travel anywhere in the world I wanted, whenever. Do a live program, do a seminar, just like an instructor, because I was an instructor. I'm not anymore. I'm still creating videos, but I'll travel to particular cities, usually for very intentional reasons. Like I went to New York, I wanted to interview a bunch of people. I went to LA, I wanted to interview Pacific people. I organized a trip to San Diego to interview Pacific people. Or I went to a business meeting in a certain city, or I wanted to do a joint venture. Meetings that require me to be there to actually accomplish the goal, because sometimes those face-to-face interactions are kind of acquired, or else they won't give the same energy, because some things just can't be accomplished unless you're face-to-face with somebody. For some reason, it just feels different when you're on the phone with somebody. I can have the same conversation with you over the phone and it won't connect, you know.
It's not the same, right? Yeah. It's not the same method of communication. It's just, we're kind of off tangent, but it's leading me into more questions. So like, how would you say like all of like, you know, Tyler's content and your knowledge of being present has impacted your conversations with other people and your ability to relate with other people as you've grown?
Well, when I was first in Real Social Dynamics, I didn't really understand empathy and connection to the level that we do now, because in order to really understand, you need to be really interested in the other people that you're talking to. Yeah. You know, there's this cliche that I always say, which is, if you want to be interesting, you have to be interested. And that's the form of the basis behind, you know, attraction, connection, and relationships. At the same time, it's not just a cliche, it's something that I also have. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've had so many reference experiences through travel, through different extracurricular interests. Even if I didn't have a particular interest in particular hobbies, I'll actually find interest in it so I could relate to other people more deeply. So I've forced interest in particular hobbies of all kinds just so I could have a better understanding, I could talk to people about their passions. Mm-hmm. So if I know your passion is private finance, if that's not something I'm really interested in, I'll dive into it, just understand it very deeply.
That's, have you ever read the book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie? Yeah. So
I went to his programs in New York, many of them, with my wife.
Yeah, so one of his big questions is like, or his big points is the same thing where, you know, you find something that someone else is interested in, you're going to ask them a bunch of questions about that because that's what they love to talk about, and that's how you kind of build the strongest connection.
It's very valuable. Yeah. You know, it's huge. I would say that the lessons from that are worth way more than the typical like business lectures or business classes. It's probably worth, just those basic simple principles are worth more than entire business classes on economics or accounting or what have you.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And also another thing is like, he talks, so for me, I'm like not an argumentative person, but if I know someone's, you know, wrong about something, before I would go and say, you know, like point the finger, you're wrong, right? And that was like such a common thing. And a big point of him is agree with the other person, you know, you're right, and because he understands, and you know, I didn't understand, is that like you gain nothing out of telling someone they're wrong. Maybe they are wrong, but what do you gain out of putting someone else down about the fact that they're wrong? You're better off agreeing with them, letting them win the argument. And if you say, you know, I see where you're coming from, I see your point, I agree with you. More oftentimes than not is kind of where I smile, is he'll say, the other person will kind of feel bad and they'll kind of back up and be like, yeah, you know, I see where you're coming from also. So that was like another, I don't know if you obviously went to seminars, so you're familiar, but life-changing stuff for me, you know. It was stuff that I kind of never, before reading these books and before like meeting people, you really don't think of this stuff, you know. So, anyway, for me, it was a big monumental step.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, so much.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you came down here, and I hope that the audience, you know, they really enjoyed this, because I wanted to do this on video because, you know, we're sharing a bunch of ideas, and hopefully it inspires some in you, but hopefully it inspires the ideas in thousands of other people who watch the video.
It's good, you got other eyes watching so they could gain stuff as well, right?
Yeah, I wanted to economically just spread as much value as I can.
Exactly, right? Not just to me, to everyone.
Yeah. But you'll take more advantage because you're going to meet me in person. Now you're going to get an invite to our parties. You got to know who we are, and yeah, now we're friends.
It's not like some sort of inside connection I had to you, right? It's you're a very friendly guy. What did I do? I sent an email, right? So I mean, it's like a lot of people, I feel like they set a barrier to what they can do, and they make excuses. You know, it's like you're probably maybe the hardest guy to meet. You got to know this guy to get in touch with you. Realistically, you're one of the most outgoing guys I've met. I sent one email and your assistant got in touch, and that was kind of how it went.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't even check my own email.
Yeah.
She just set up the appointment. She told me in our sit rep, you know, it's like a military term, and she just said, hey, you know, I have this guy who went to your school. He's interested in meeting up. I'm like, okay, cool, schedule something. And she set it up instantly.
There it is.
Yeah.
So for those of you watching, Nick is a very personal guy, a very nice guy.
This is not the first time this has happened either. I had another guy who was a member of the RC Founders Club, and he heard that I was going to go on a yacht, and he goes, hey, this is a long shot, but you know, this yacht party is pretty cool. How do I get into this yacht party? I said, well, just come with me.
Wow.
You know, and he came with me. And I was in New York. Of course, I made him help me with my videos.
There you go.
But yeah, he helped out. I'm actually also looking for more people to help me out with cam work. So if there's people who are watching this, you guys are interested in coming down to Vegas, helping with my camera work, come down. I know that Owen does the same thing. We have internships all the time. I say my superpower is to because I did a conference called SING, the Speakers Authors Networking Group, and they said, what's your superpower? I said, my superpower is to inspire over 1,000 people to come work for our company for free.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really just the fact that we have all sorts of really interesting things to share, and people just want to take advantage of that. So we're kind of like bartering, trading value of learning with value of learning and helping, you know. You know.
But anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been great. Knowledge that I've learned, but with the video cameras, you know, like thousands of people as well have been able to tune in and learn some of the same things. Maybe, you know, 19-year-olds like me have been wondering, you know,
Awesome.
Still thinking about what we're doing with our lives, and you're a great resource to, you know, provide that knowledge.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna crash.
Yeah.
Got a music video tomorrow. I got to do some baking with Julian. But thanks for coming down. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
And if you're watching this video, subscribe to my channel. Write your comments below. I will look at your comments, and they will inspire future videos. Cheers.